All right, we're back once again for Building a Better Blade Runner, Episode 2, painting Deckard from Gilman Productions. Episode 1, we painted the base, for which I am still very, very happy how it turned out. But we'll set that off to the side, and we'll get started on Deckard's skin tones. And I'm going to start off with this Pro warm flesh tone. Crank down my air pressure a little bit. Covered in Stynylrez Res Gray. And we'll get this party started. Yeah, he has a yellowish tone to him, but I'm going to use this to warm up the Lifelines Deep Natural. Let that dry. Some of that gray still showing through, but that's all right. That'll do for that. Make sure I got everything. Make sure I get him behind the ears. Pardon me. All right. Didn't need to use all that. I'll just real quick clean my airbrush out and we'll come back. Or I'm going to seal this off after get my airbrush cleaned out. And we'll come back in with the Lifeline Deep Natural and start on the next color. All right, got the first layer of skin sealed off. And yeah, it does have a yellowish tone to it, but by the time I'm done with it, that'll fade in the background. I'm going to take my Lifeline's Deep Natural. And this stuff is going to go on fairly semi-transparent. But you want to build the skin up in layers. Now the complexion of his skin is changing, so hopefully you guys can see that the way I'm seeing it. No longer the yellowish tone that it was. Now it's taking on a more warm, even skin tone. Once that dries down, that'll look really nice. Be a good starting point. That's a good beginning. Very good beginning. We'll do the same for the right hand. That's a good start off for the hand. So brace that arm up against. Clean the airbrush out. Seal that off, and then come back in with the first round of freckling. That'll add way more depth into the skin. And the more layers we put on top of that, the more it's going to fade and push that back and make it look even more real. So get this sealed off. We'll come right back. Okay, now we've got that sealed off. A nice, decent start to the skin tone. Got rid of the yellowish tone, but it warmed up the deep natural really nicely. Good point to start from. So now I'm going to take this bloody red from Filet Game Color. It's like 98% water, distilled water, and 2% paint. I want it really, really thin for when I do this. I'm going to use this old brush to apply this. This will be the first round of this to go. Be many others. And it's kind of hard to see. They're extremely transparent, which is what I wanted. They do show up, but they're very, very hard to see. Then we'll do the gun hand as well. And like you saw me just do, excuse me, keep cotton swabs handy for large blobs that may wind up on the model. So you can wipe them away. You don't want to let them sit for very long. And we'll come back and revisit that at a later point. Won't have to do it very much from this point forward, but it'll help bring some more depth into that skin at a later point. Try it one more time. Go. Don't have any smears. Yeah, now you can see them a little bit better. I went back in and added a little bit more red to that mix. First time doesn't work, go back in a second time if you have to. All right. I'll have to seal this off when I'm done with it. Now you can kind of see the freckling on the backs of the hands. Very faint. Not meant to stand out because we're going to go back over this with the deep natural. A very, very light mist to push that underneath. I'm going to seal this off once again, and we'll come back and hit it with another round of deep natural. Alrighty, now that that's sealed off, kind of looks like he's got a slight case of measles, but that's going to fade into the background. I'm going to lightly mist the deep natural over the top of that. Push that back underneath. Move that off the side temporarily. You don't have to go too heavy with it, just light enough where some of that red's still going to be showing through, but not as prominent as it was. You'll get an effect like that. Still see it just a little bit, but not that bad. All right, another round of flat sealer, and then we'll come back with the, I think we're going to start in on the first round of shadows. We'll want those pushed back and faded as much as possible. We'll start in with that after I get him sealed off. And then we'll hit the natural skin tones will be the next lighter color. That'll make a hell of a difference as it lightens him up quite a bit. So we will be right back. Okay, we are back, and it's been, unfortunately, it's been about 6 days since I first started this. Virginia wound up in the hospital for 2 days, and I had to, excuse me, I had to make sure that she was going to be okay, make sure the house was taken care of. So she's back home. She's doing real good. No major complications, but can't be too careful. And now we're back to working on this. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start doing some white washes with this Riojas Vein Flesh. It's a blue-green. I'm going to hit on the back side of the hands and get that detail set in. I'll probably do a few spot red washes around the nose, up and around the eyes and the bridge of the nose area and the forehead, around the ears. And I'll be pushing that back underneath, but I'm going to be layering as I go, so it'll bring out a lot more depth to the skin. Plus, we'll be adding the shadows in as well. So, get this shaken up. I haven't used this in a while. I want to make sure it's not going to clump up on me. And this will be heavily thinned down. More than anything else. Take my brush here. Start building that up. Probably add another drop or two of paint to that. Not too much. Stuff is normally transparent anyway, so I thin it down and it becomes way more transparent. Not quite working out the way I was hoping for. Let me just try the damn paint by itself and see what happens. Starting to gather down in areas where I don't want it to. But like I said, we're going to be pushing this underneath the skin, so it's not going to be too garish when it's done. All right, we'll let that dry. The technique that I found, a YouTuber that goes by Art of Scorpio, using a green tone around the eyebrows and other areas of the face, which I thought was really damn unique. Just around the jawline, around the beard, things like that. And it actually paid off. I'm really impressed. If you guys haven't seen his work, I'll leave the link for it. I was really shocked by how beautifully this guy paints. And it was kind of funny that he was painting Indiana Jones. So I figure, why not watch as much of it as I could, because it's the same actor, two different characters. Why not give it a shot? So but this discoloration is just enough to tint the skin, not severely discolor it. Do the same thing around where his mustache would be. Sorry for the stomach growling if that's coming through. And this is just meant to highlight the areas where his beard would be, because he's going to have 5 o'clock shadow later on. This will give that a little bit more depth. Doesn't discolor it a whole hell of a lot, but it just gives it enough of a tint to the skin to add another layer of depth in there. Back around the back side of the jawline. You can kind of see it darken that area down just a little bit, and I am going to be going back over this with deep natural, which I've mixed with the regular natural to lighten it up. This just takes a little bit of time. I probably should time lapse this, but I want you guys to see it in its entirety. So this video is probably going to run longer than the video for the base did. I'm very appreciative of the fact that people have actually watched it and liked it. It might be hard to see on camera, but there is a slight discoloration to the skin in the areas where I put that. I want to make sure that it's even on both sides. Definitely even under the nose as well. Although the left side of his face is slightly curled upwards, he's got that Harrison Ford smirk happening, so it's kind of hard to avoid the difference in the sides of the face. Like I said, you don't have to go in too heavy with that green tone, but it definitely will make a difference when you start adding the lighter skin tones to the face. Let's take a look at the hand. Veins underneath have taken that wash really well. Go over one final time. That'll be just the vein wash for now, so I'm going to seal that off. Come back and we'll do the first spot washes of bloody red on the skin, around the ears, the nose, the cheeks, around the eyes, and more than likely around that infamous scar on his chin that he is so famously known for. This is working out really well, so seal him off. We'll be right back. Okay, now that the lacquer's dried down, pull out one of my fine detail brushes. Actually, I'll use the same one I did before, and we'll start applying red around the face. Not going to be very prominent yet. That will be later. We'll add this again. Just want to get a gentle discoloration. Where all the blood flow is going to be, especially around the cheek areas. May not look outstanding yet, but once we start doing this towards the end of the portrait, it will actually look right in the right spot. To get him behind the ears. A little bit warmer out here in the garage than I anticipated it to be. Most places in the country are experiencing their first few weeks of fall, and yet Southern California and definitely Southern Nevada are still getting the triple digit temperatures of summer. Some up there on the forehead as well. Okay. Okay. I'm going to add some redness around the knuckles. It's not very standout-ish yet. Excuse me. Didn't mean to do that. Shoot, I've been doing that off camera. I'm sorry, folks. We'll add even more redness in later on. Make sure I keep that on camera. Even though the knuckles here on this side of his hand really won't be seen, still kind of set on doing it, if not for one, then just for all. I'm very satisfied with the way that looks around the joints. I'll refine that as we go. But like I said, I will be going back over that with the flesh tone that I hit him with earlier. And it'll actually give more depth to the skin tone because I'm going to push everything underneath. So far, that's a very, very good start. Damn, it really is hot out here. I envy those of you who have air-conditioned garages because we don't. All right. Seal off that initial round of red and vein blue-green washes. I've already sealed the green wash up. Seal that red off, come back, and we'll start in on the shadows. From this point forward, I unfortunately lost my microphone, and I was not even aware of it. The Lamora Nudes eyeshadow palette that you're seeing right now is what I'm going to be using to apply the shadows. Instead of using the standard pastels, I decided instead to give this a try. I had tried it before with the Judge Dredd as well as the Bo-Katan with these wonderful little eyeshadow applicators that I bought off of Amazon. Excuse me. As well, this technique is something that, honestly, it does really work. These eyeshadow applicators are a lot better control than a brush. and I like them a lot. I bought them off Amazon. They're $100 per pack. I do not recall exactly how much I paid for them. But now I'm going to be applying a color called Classic. It's a deep brown tone. And as you just saw, I feather it out using a makeup brush, going back and forth. Gently blowing any excess away, making sure I don't have any spit in any way, shape, or form. I do not want to turn my pastel into mud. And using a kneadable eraser, removes any accidental excess pigments getting on other parts of the skin that I don't want it on. Again, I do apologize for losing my original microphone audio. I had no idea that the battery had died just shortly before I did this, so I'm going to have to make sure one's charging and one's being used, and rotating them as I go. I'm not worried about how harsh the shadows are going to look at this point, because I will be pushing those back with the airbrush and the Createx Lifelines Natural. Definitely getting the shadows under the eyebrow and up in the corner of the eye. Visually darken that down, even though that part of his face really isn't going to be in the light. Once I start painting the eye, that shadow will help out quite a bit. I'm trying to work the same color, the classic, into the creases in the forehead. At this point, the applicator is starting to get a little bit frayed, so the applicator is going wider. That's why I'm wiping away any excess with my kneadable eraser. And the kneadable eraser trick can be used with pan pastels or any regular pastel chalk. As long as you're careful and don't try to smear it too much, it'll get rid of a lot of the pigment without staining the surrounding skin areas. The shadows are starting to come along quite well, and we just keep proceeding as we hit the rest of them. All right, now the flat lacquer is dried for the shadows on his face. Happy where that's at right now. It looks a little bit on the dark side, but once I hit this with the skin tone mix, I'll go back over it one more time and start pushing the shadows back. But I'm going to use pan pastels, burnt sienna extra dark to get inside the ears, inside the nostrils. Do a little bit on the back side of the hand, get those shadows darker, since once the arm is applied, that hand's going to be facing pretty much straight down. So that'll be a little bit of a plus in making those shadows a little bit deeper on that side of his hand. So I'm going to break out another one of these little beauties. Pull any of that excess away. Definitely a nice tint to it. The effect on that looks really good. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of this just to the underside. Underneath the eyebrows a little bit. Much better. All right, I like how that looks. So I'll set that off to the side. We'll start working on the shadows on the hands with both the eyeshadow palette and these. Get around the grip of the gun. And yes, that is a makeup brush I'm using to feather this out. Does a much better job than a straight paintbrush does. Haven't even touched the airbrush yet, and my compressor's already telling me off. Oops. A little bit of a smudge. All right, I like the shadows on the hand quite a bit. Some will stand out, some won't. They will get pushed back under the skin gradually. I have to come back in and re-hit them just a little bit, then so be it. Not the end of the world. All right, silly's off, and we'll be back. Okay. It's been about a day or two since I've worked on Deckard, and the last time I worked on him, after I got most of the shadows pushed back with the airbrush, I ran into a little bit of a snag. And one of the biggest problems I ran into was right here in this crease in the forehead. There was a little bit of a cut into the resin that I had not noticed before. And I could actually take the tip of my X-Acto blade and actually stick it up inside of it. So it was holding to whatever pastel powder I had applied, and I could not airbrush over it and push it back. So what I wound up having to do, and I did this off camera, is I wound up taking some UV curable putty, particularly this one from Green Stuff World, which I have reviewed before, and spatulaed very tiny amounts into that cut using this wonderful little tool. And this is a minaret that I got from sculpturedepot.com, and I'll explain what this is for later on. But once I got that putty up inside that cut and cured it, I was able to alleviate the problem of not being able to push the shadows back in that particular area. Everything else was perfectly pushed back except for that one glaring dark spot right there. Now everything looks even. So with that being said, I also went ahead and hit the highlights across both cheeks, a little bit on the chin, on the left ear, and across the forehead on both sides. And it might be a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of see that his the upper part of his face is a little bit on the pale pasty side. Well, we're going to alleviate that right now. And also, I am using a new camera arm, so I'm going to be filming from this vantage point from now on. So we'll begin with washes of red and golden yellow from Vallejo, transparent sun wash flesh from Comart Medea, and that one I discovered by complete accident working on my Carl Kolchak bust. And that's this one here. And then Vallejo Game Colors New Formula Sepia Wash. Once all those are applied, I'll be applying 2 different shades of blue, Andrea Blue from Vallejo, and then Sky Blue from Vallejo. And the Sky Blue I'm going to use to try and bring back all the highlighted areas. It's an experiment. I do not expect it to work 100%. I've never tried it before. But my thinking is the Andrea Blue will cool everything down, washes that I apply, and balance everything out. The Sky Blue, I'm hoping, will lighten those highlight areas where I hit it just enough to make them stand out, but they'll look natural. And I'll do the same thing on the gun hand. Now, my formula on the Vallejo paints, 1 drop of paint for about 20 drops of distilled water. And I'll be using these wonderful little makeup sponges to remove the wash as I go. So I'm going to make sure, and this is known as the sideshow method. Make sure all the chunks that I encountered are out. And we'll start across the forehead first. Went to about even where the eyebrows end. We'll come back in. We'll start sponging that away. Boy, that did not go the way I'd planned. Need to thin that down a lot more. And did darken that up considerably, but all part of the learning curve. There we go. Yeah, I definitely need to thin that down a lot more. Definitely darken that skin tone down quite a bit. And like I said, when I come back in with the blue, that will push everything back. Okay, that's much better. What I'm using to pull even more of that excess off is Vallejo airbrush thinner. Remove even more of that. And you can tell there's a definite difference in the upper and the lower part of the face. All right. Yeah, much thinner, much better. Definitely want to make sure you get under the eyebrows. Let's take this down to the jawline. Fronts and the ears as well. Also have Q-tips on hand for inner parts of the ears. All those places where these sponges will not reach. Apologize if I'm off camera a little bit. Right. Proceed down the neck and underneath the jawline. Definitely make sure that all the areas you're going to apply this wash to are 100% sealed off. Before you attempt this, otherwise you will definitely ruin the paint job that you put in. You get a brush. You can see how it's already changed his complexion. And that one little wash, now he has a more reddish tone to the skin. And definitely along the back sides of the ears, up underneath the jawline. Now the other side of the jawline is going to be very tricky to pull off because I have the collar in the way. So I'm going to do that first. Rest away with the sponge. As long as you don't let this wash sit for too long, you should be able to avoid any mistakes. That's why I'm not letting this sit for longer than maybe a second, and that is it. Any longer than that, you take the chance of not being able to recover any of the paint colors you've applied before. Go back over his forehead area right here one more time. Okay, that's way more even. Much better. Much, much better. And we will be going back in with red washes after we get all this done around the tops of the ears, around the insides, along the cheeks and the nose. May have to punch. No, actually the shadows look really damn good. So that's helping out a lot. So now that I'm on the right track, go ahead and hit the right side of the face. Up underneath the bottom lip and across under the nose. And like I said, it is very hard to get down in between here, so it kind of smears a little bit. That's why I'm using a brush and a sponge to get that area blended in. I don't want any hard edges in the wash at all. There we go. And now the warmth in that skin tone is starting to show through. We'll finish up around underneath that. Yeah, it's all starting to come together. Much more even. Really good. And we'll get that right ear. And since his right ear is pretty much going to be on the very lightly shadow side of him, I have airbrushed no highlights whatsoever. I did not feel a need to do so. And no, this Vallejo airbrush thinner that I'm using is not damaging my paint. It's actually helping me remove excess. I think might be too heavy in some areas. Definitely down here along the neck needs to be thinned down quite a bit. Like I said, you don't want to have any halos or hard edges when you do the washes, and I think after this, when I do the yellow wash on him next, I'm going to start around the neck area first, since that is going to be the more difficult area to work with. Pull him away from the light and see. Oh yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to apply the exact same wash to the gun hand. Start off on the back side first. This might be a little bit tricky as well with some of the cut ends around the fingers. Make sure I pay attention to where I apply that. especially up under here. Oops. Run up with a little bit of a hard edge. Back in. And removed it. I have another one right there. Okay. Down a little bit more. There we go. Now that red tone on that hand is a lot more even. But once I start using the other washes, that red is going to blend down to the point where it's almost not even going to be seen. So now I'm going to apply it to the middle, ring, and pinky finger and part of the top of the hand. We'll finish up with the trigger finger and the rest of the hand. Do not want to knock that over. A little bit of excess color on the sides of the fingers. Believe me, we'll go through quite a few of these puppies, but it's all right. It's model building. It's fun. The excess is worth it. All right. I'm going to pause this and seal all this off. We'll come back and we'll do the yellow. So we will be right back. My bad, I didn't have my microphone on. Wonderful. Well, it's been about 25 minutes. Everything's sealed off and dry. So we're going to proceed with the golden yellow. Do the exact same thing that we did before. So I was going to start on the neck. Whoops. Try that one more time. Doesn't alter the coloration very much. It usually does. May have over-thinned it way too much. That's all right. We can make it work. There we go. All right. That's a lot better. Okay, now we'll start on the right side of the neck. And mix one more drop of golden yellow in that. Yeah, it should be much better. Go back in with my paintbrush. Get the excess that the sponge can't reach. All right, that works out good. And get that left, that right ear real quick. Now it's starting to balance that skin tone out from the red. A lot better. Even though the red is still a little on the prominent side, it's not as bad as it was. And you can do this as many times as you need to. You think the red is too prominent still, you can go back in with yellow or even blue. Push it back. That's balancing out nicely. There we go. And now that red is not nearly as prominent as it was. The flesh tone is actually starting to have a little bit of a normal look to it. That's where that red went on really heavy on the forehead when I started. Still a little bit too prominent for my liking. Much, much better. Down in here a little bit, looks like a little bit of yellow got missed. I want to push too hard and risk breaking that collar. Okay, and we get the left ear, can't forget that. That's a really good turnout. Still has a little bit of the red showing through, but it's not nearly as bad as it was before. The way these colors work in conjunction with one another turns out absolutely perfect. Oh yeah, that's starting to get really, really good. So I'll let that set, and we'll start working on the gun hand. Same exact method, same exact manner. Start on the inside of the hand. We'll go the rest of the way. So one thing about yellow as opposed to, say, the red or the blue, it's not nearly as heavily pigmented. And you can ask anybody in this hobby, what is one of the hardest colors to paint? And yellow, a lot of times, will be one of the first answers you will hear, because no matter how you lay it down, it always takes more than one coat of yellow to completely go opaque. Always a pain in the ass, if you ask me, but the way that colors work, color theory, yellow has been always a pain in the butt. I think yellow is worse than white. Sure, I don't leave anything down around that sleeve end. Looks like we got it all. All right. That dry for a minute or two, seal it up, come back, and we start in with the Sunwash Flesh Tone. All right. Yellow wash has been sealed off. Now we go in with the transparent Sunwash Flesh from Comart Medea. This is going to be, may not show up very well, but it's going to add just a little bit, I mean a little bit, of warmth back into the skin. Even though Deckard was not very suntan in the film, and a lot of the film took place mostly at night, and this is heavily, heavily thinned down. This should not change his complexion in any way, shape, or form. Once it dries, it may have a little bit of a almost an orangish brown tone. I found out the hard way, and I'll show you guys here in just a second. When I did the Kolchak bust, I'd applied that very same color probably about 3 times, and when that color dried, it looked like Mr. Kolchak have one of those spray-on tans, kind of like a certain former president likes to sport every now and again. And I was actually at my wit's end with that because I didn't know what in the world I was going to do. And that's where the blue wash came in, because that blue wash actually took that orange tone, that warm tone, and actually pushed it down so much that it actually looked like Carl had been laying out by the pool. So it actually made it look way more natural than anything else. So now we'll go across the forehead. Like I said, I don't anticipate this to change the complexion a whole lot. It'll just add more depth into the skin tone. And not everybody does this. This is something that I decided to do with him. Excuse me. And yeah, it didn't change that tone very much. It did alter it a little bit, but not really, really bad. Then we'll go down the left side of the face. I would have normally time-lapsed this, but I decided not to. Once I start working on the trench coat and the shirt, those videos will not be time-lapsed either. Although I still have no idea what I'm going to do for the shirt pattern. Still working on that. See, the skin tone's coming along quite nicely. I hope the folks in Florida, sending definite shout outs to Saul Alvarez, Jesse Garcia, Mark Worthling, everybody out there that is about to get an unfortunate visit from Hurricane Milton within a matter of hours. I hope you guys are going to be safe and sound. You know, everything they're saying is that's going to be near historic proportion for a storm of that size. So I hope you guys really, really come out okay. I like the way that's turning out. Looks really good. Very happy with this so far. And because this particular paint is formulated for airbrush use, it's incredibly thin. So I went ahead and thinned it down even further. Unlike what I did with Carl, I went a little bit heavy-handed on that. Once I get this applied to the other ear, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. pull that away from the light and see how it looks. Oh God, that looks really good. Yeah, that's definitely going in the direction that I'm looking for. Beautiful. We'll get the right ear. I didn't get too much down in there. We'll let the brush first. Yeah, it's definitely starting to look like him now. One more time. Right in that spot. Get a slightly larger, drier brush. And I will have a new review coming up this week. I'm expecting the X Plus Vinyl Medusa kit from Clash of the Titans to arrive on Friday. That I wasn't sure if that thing was ever going to get here. So I'm looking forward to opening that one up and seeing how good of a job X Plus did. All right. Now, what I was talking about with Carl's skin tone might be a little bit hard to see, but that really heavy warm tone in his skin was caused by that sun-washed skin tone. And once I hit it with the blue, it actually pushed it back and made it look more like he had a suntan than anything else. So I'm not trying to get that effect with Deckard because in the film, he's mostly wandering around at night. And he's mostly wandering around in a lot of cold situations. Heavy, wet weather. Oh yeah, that looks good. And every time you do this, I probably should have said this before, but when you do this sponging technique with these washes, you don't want to wipe it off. You want to dab it off every single time. Because all wiping is going to do is just streak it, not press it into the paint like what you want. Let's see here. Oh yeah, definitely headed in the right direction. All right, seal that off. We will be right back. And once again, I forgot to turn on my damn microphone. Cute. This is the sepia wash that I'm applying. I apologize for the lack of microphone control. Seems to be working out quite well. It's definitely a thicker wash right out of the bottle, so if you decide to use this instead of a sepia paint, thinning it down is definitely the way to go. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Now we get back in there with that brush. Seems to be an alright color choice. Go across the forehead. Sorry, I keep getting off camera. Doesn't seem too bad. Does have a little bit of a tone in it like the freckling would. That puts that back in there a little bit without having to do the freckling itself. That's not too bad. Q-tip and get that out of there. I'm very happy with how this is turning out. Pull it away from the light. Yeah, looks way better. A lot more natural. I'm glad I decided to take this chance. See how well this would work. I'm liking how that's turning out. I'm liking that a lot. Looks much, much different from where we started. But I'm very happy with the outcome thus far. Yeah, it's blended back really, really good. The fact that I can still see that bluish green wash where the 5 o'clock shadow would be that far underneath the skin, I'm very happy with how this is turning out. Yeah, that's turning out really, really good. All right. Set that aside, let him dry. Same thing with the hand. If anybody ever has any doubts about constantly sealing your work, right after I paused from the Sunwash Flesh Tone, I knocked over an entire cup of paint water sitting right over here to my right, and it wound up getting on Deckard's hand and part of the base. Thankfully, because I sealed off my work, none of what I had done, including that Sunwash Flesh Tone, was even ruined. That's why you always seal off after every step when you paint. Make sure your paintwork is protected. Accidents happen, and you never can tell. Because if you don't and you wind up trying to dry off what you've been working on and you start taking paint off, you're going to have to start all over again. So for anybody out there that is new to this hobby that's watching this, heed that advice. Seal your work every step. No matter what, seal it off. You will thank yourself for it in the long run. And maybe someday, sooner or later, you'll thank me. But that is the most sound advice I could give anybody. Seal off your work every time. Don't take the chance, because it's that one chance when you do decide not to, that you're going to have to start all over from the ground up. All right, seal this off and then we come back for the blue. All right, now we proceed with the Andrea Blue Wash, and this will push back and balance out all the colors that I've washed over his skin so far. All the reds, all the yellows. Much cooler tone. Jesus. Not what I was hoping for. What the hell? Oh boy. Yeah, not the result I was looking for. This could have been a monumental disaster. Look, that blue did not want to come off. May have to thin that down even further because that was way too close for my comfort. Only one other time I've applied that blue like that, and it actually ruined the entire skin tone that I had applied. And that was on my quarter scale Bo-Katan, a 3D printed kit that I did earlier this year. And I applied a wash of blue from Pro Acryl, and it stained the skin tone so bad I had to start all over from the ground up. So I'm hoping that this is not going to do that. I'm not going to lie to you, that scared the absolute crap right out of me. So I'm going to do this in much smaller sections. All right. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to have to go on the rest of this, at least for this color anyway. I did not like the way that looked. It is cooling down the skin tone quite a bit, but it still has a much more natural look now. The reds are still under there, the yellows, the browns. And I'm liking the way that's turning out. One area of the neck is still bugging me though. Boy, that's a nice hi, how do you do? Damn. All right. Yeah, I'm liking the way that's turning out. Okay. All right. That's looking really good. Like I said, I did not want to leave him with a even remotely type of tan skin tone at all. He was not very tan in the film, so I'm not going to go against that. But now you've seen one of the hazards and pitfalls of building garage kits. A lot of times you think you've got things under control, and then you see you really don't. Accidents can and do happen. Really like how that's turning out. I'm going to leave that shadowed side of his neck alone. I don't really need to cool that down. I can leave that dark and not have a problem with it. Yeah, it looks really good. Not as tan as Mr. Kolchak that I showed you last time around. He isn't meant to be. To finish off the neck. Makes me so glad I didn't start in that creased area of the neck by the closer to the trench coat. That would have been a headache and then some to get that off. I like the way that looks. That looks really good. As I said before, I will be adding reds and some purples into the skin. Adding more color in certain areas. Down in there with that. That is a pain in the ass. Oops. Definitely taking on much more lifelike personality now that I've done all these washes. Looks really, really good. Very happy. Go back in because somehow some of that pigment just did not want to come up properly. All right, that's a lot better. Let's see how it looks away from the light. Oh yeah, really liking that. Pulled away from the light, it looks even more realistic. It doesn't look washed out. It looks really, really good. All right, now we'll do the gun hand. I will say thus far, I've really, really enjoyed painting this in front of for you guys on camera. Thus far, this has been a lot of fun, happy accidents and all. A lot of nice comments on the base. I'm sorry this has taken so long. Life and everything does get in the way, and it's a real pain in the ass. Thus far, a very good looking kit. I love the skin tones. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. No, I said that a lot, but looking at it like this, yeah, looks really fantastic. All right, one more seal off, and then we apply the sky blue, and that's going to be spot washed on all the areas where the highlights are. That's an experiment to see whether or not it'll actually brighten those skin tones up. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but it never hurts to try. It was an idea. Never said it was a good one. So give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. All right. Made a decision that I'm not going to do the sky blue wash after all. I can actually see where the highlights are at. And I still have to come back in and do a lot of red washes, purples, getting some more color back into the cheeks, around the forehead area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this work in progress video done. I've invested almost well over 2 hours into just the skin tones by themselves. It probably should have been a hell of a lot shorter than that. I appreciate you guys sticking with me through this. I hope you learned a lot. This is going to be skin tones part 1. After I get this video edited, I'll come back and we'll do the lips, the around the scar area, get the color, get the warmness back into the ears, around the eyelids, start getting the eyes base coated, start blocking in the hair, and that should be the end of the skin tones. I might try to do the fingernails as well, but apart from that, I'm going to call this particular video done. So for Building a Better Blade Runner Episode 2, the skin tones, this has been the Figure Kit Garage. Everybody stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Coming soon, Episode 3. Keep building, kits.